Now before we pressure cook this, I like to add a few drops of food coloring. This is going to make the agar look prettier. It also helps you spot contamination much easier when things start to grow on it. So go ahead and add about 3 to 5 drops of food coloring into here and shake it up to get it all mixed up. Alright, after we add the food coloring, screw on the cap to the bottle. Make sure your cap is unscrewed a tiny little bit so it's not 100% sealed. This is going to allow steam to get into the bottle to sterilize the agar. It's also going to prevent pressure from building up inside the bottle, which could cause it to explode or crack during the pressure cooking process. Today I'm going to be using a 22 quart Miro pressure cooker. I'll leave a link in the description of where you can get this. Any pressure cooker is fine as long as you can get up to 15 psi. That would be the ideal pressure that we would need in order to properly sterilize our ingredients. So for my pressure cooking process, I like to add about 3 quarts of water to my pressure cooker here. What I'm going to do is pressure cook this agar at 15 psi for about 30 minutes. After we add our water, we'll turn the heat on to high and bring this up to a boil. You want your heat on high because this will build up the pressure that's inside the pressure cooker. Once we're at optimal pressure and we've reached the 15 psi mark, we can go ahead and turn the heat down and maintain the pressure at 15 psi for 30 minutes. Here I'm making sure that the cap is loose. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and put the lid on the pressure cooker and keep the heat on the high. We're bringing it up to a boil. I set a timer for about 15 minutes here just to make sure that it's on at a full rolling boil before we add our weight on top of the pressure cooker. So after about 15 minutes, you'll see the vent port at a full steam and you'll see the red safety lock here in the up position. So I'll go ahead and add the weight on top here and let it boil for another 15 minutes until it reaches the right amount of pressure, which is 15 psi according to this weight. Once you reach the optimal psi range, your weight's going to start shaking. This indicates that you're at the proper pressure inside of your pressure cooker. Once you reach the proper pressure, you're going to see the weight do a little bit of a dance here. I'll kind of record this and show you guys a demonstration. This is a little bit of a how-to on using a pressure cooker. So once we reach 15 psi, I'll go ahead and lower the heat down to medium rather than a high. This is going to maintain the pressure that's inside of the pressure cooker. Afterwards, I'll go ahead and set a timer for 30 minutes and we'll come back after 30 minutes here. After 30 minutes is up, we go ahead and turn off the heat and wait until the pressure reduces down until you can open up your pressure cooker. Once it's ready, we'll take the media bottle out. Now the agar is going to be boiling hot right now, so we would have to wait until it cools down a bit before we can work with it. Agar has to be heated up past 185 degrees Fahrenheit or 85 degrees Celsius in order to start melting into a liquid state. It begins to solidify at around 85 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly 32 to 40 degrees Celsius. So we want to pour it before it cools down enough to become a solid. So ideally, you want to be working with the agar at about 160 degrees or 140 degrees. Below there is the ideal temperature you want to be pouring your agar at. If we pour our agar while it is still boiling, you're going to end up melting your ketchup cups and you're not going to have a good time. Alright, so next up we're going to be pouring our agar into our ketchup cups. I'll go ahead and set the oven here to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. I am using an oven method in order to pour my agar. The reason why I'm using the oven is because I'm already working in front of it. You can also pour your agar in a steel air box if you don't want to use the oven. I want to give a special shout out to Home Mycology for this tech. He does a lot of YouTube videos as well on mycology, so feel free to go check out his channel and give him some love and tell him that PGT sent you there. So before we begin our pour, I'll check the temperatures again. Make sure that we're below 160 degrees Fahrenheit before we begin to pour. So how the oven method works is you heat up your oven to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, it's very sterile. We crack open our oven to let the heat rise. This will push any potential contamination or bacteria up and away from our cups, and it creates a steady stream of clean, warm air space that we can work in. The ketchup cups that I use, I find them to be very sterile from the packaging. If you prefer to buy pre-sterilized petri dishes to pour your agar in, you may certainly do so. That's entirely up to you. I find these ketchup cups to be very cheap and very effective for what I need them for. So with the oven cracked here, we'll go ahead and begin our pour process for the agar into the cups.
Dưới sự đồng ý của PhillyGoldenTeacher, video được chuẩn xuất Việt bởi Cương, NpsLab.vn.
So once we pour the agar into the cups, we're going to go ahead and cover them up with lids immediately and set them aside to cool. I like to stack the cups on top of each other because while they are still warm, this is going to reduce condensation from staying on top of the lids of the cups. It's going to give you a better view into your agar cups once it's cooled. You would not be able to get rid of the condensation on the top cup of the stack, but all the bottom cups below that will have condensation removed. Something about the heat on top of the lid helps with the heat rise and helps evaporate the condensation away. So once your agar cups are cooled down, they'll be ready to use in your still air box or in front of a flow hood. You may store them in the fridge to they'll last longer in there, or you can store them at room temperature if you're going to be using them in a few days. That's pretty much it to the whole process of how I make my agar cups. A personal thank you if you've made it this far into the video. I tried to keep this as short as possible for you guys. That's the end of today's class. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys liked the lesson, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Got any questions? Feel free to leave them in a comment. I'll see you all in the next class. Peace out.